G'day guys, and welcome to this business management lesson. In today's lesson, we're looking at key knowledge point 222. That is Unit 2, Area of Study 2, and the second key knowledge point for this area of study. Today specifically, we're looking once again at the business environments, internal and external business environments, but this time we're looking at them in relation to how they can affect a business's ability to establish a customer base and create a brand identity. Now, when it comes to brand identity, we're talking about the way that customers or people in the market perceive a business. I gave the example in the last lesson that in most cases, business activity is undertaken by executive professionals, middle-aged people, wearing appropriate office attire in meetings, perhaps sending emails, writing proposals, sitting at desks in office buildings. Most businesses operate in a very businessy kind of way. But when you think about a business as a customer or as a consumer, it's unlikely that's what you're thinking about. When you think about McDonald's, you're probably thinking about chips and burgers. Maybe you think about Ronald McDonald. Maybe you think about the artistic style of those restaurants. Maybe you think about the colors yellow and red. If you think about the AFL, you're probably not thinking about the executives doing deals and managing their sites and managing budgets and having lots of meetings. You're probably thinking about your favorite team. You're probably thinking about pies and getting down to the ground to have a kick. If you think about Red Bull as the example I've given here, it's unlikely you're thinking about the executives who are working on international trade legislation and making sure their product makes it to different ports to be redistributed to retailers. It's probable you think about the very extreme example of marketing that Red Bull represents, slapping their logo on F1 cars and on amazing stunt planes and skydivers jumping from the edge of space. That's probably the brand image that's cultivated in your mind. For most businesses, developing a brand image is very deliberate. And when it comes to developing a brand image, there are many, many factors within the business environments that will affect how customers perceive your brand. Now, I'll remind you at this point, the three business environments named in the study design are the internal, operating, and macro environments. The operating and macro environments are both different parts of the external business environment, and I'll give you examples from each of these as we go. Internal business factors that can affect the establishment of a customer base and the development of a brand identity start with the owners, shareholders, and managers. We'll call these people the leadership of the business. When it comes to deciding how a business will market itself, those decisions are up to the management, or up to the leadership. Whether this business is going to present themselves as a luxury option in the market, consider Rolls-Royce perhaps as an example of what we're talking about here, that will be up to the management. Whether we're thinking more along the lines of a budget or affordable option, once again, that's up to the management. Whether you're going to market yourself like Toyota does in the global automotive marketplace, where it's more affordable family vehicles, or you're going to market yourself like Lamborghini or Porsche or even Tesla, that is going to be the result of decisions made by the leadership of those businesses. And then certainly another internal environment factor we need to consider is the employees. Whatever decision is made as to how the business will market itself, employees need to have this communicated to them very effectively because they need to embody the values that align with this kind of business identity. For example, if the business is going to market itself as a luxury brand or a very executive class brand, then the employees will have to be very polite, very well presented. They'll have to appear very confident and very knowledgeable about the product. They'll have to be very calm and very personable, but not overly friendly, to exhibit that kind of luxury interaction that you would expect when you're interacting with representatives of a luxury brand. Certainly, if the business is going to be going to present themselves differently, if it's going to be a business that is explicitly cool and trying to be ultra trendy, your hipster baristas aren't going to exactly be expected to act the same way a wine sommelier would act in a very high-end restaurant. So it's important that the employees are on board with whatever vision it is, whatever for your brand identity, so that they can demonstrate and they can live out that kind of image in their interactions with customers. Now, when it comes to the external environment, once again, this is separated into operating and macro environments. The operating environment is factors and forces most closely aligned with the business. The business will have some impact over these things, some control over these things. These things will have a direct impact on the business. And so one of these examples, of course, is customers. They are fundamentally important when we consider the question of developing a brand identity and a customer base, because these are the people who are going to buy your stuff. Ultimately, it comes down to their needs and preferences being the things that most impact whether or not you're going to be able to market to them effectively. If you're ignoring what they want, if you're just going to market your product as a luxury good because you want to market it as a luxury good, but the customers don't want to buy a luxury good, then your marketing is going to fail. Consider too this example of Pringles multigrain. When Pringles tried to get in on the grain wave trend from a few years ago. Grain waves are still around. They're delicious. I like them. But when Pringles tried to introduce a healthier option for their chip, they'd fundamentally misunderstood that people don't buy Pringles because they want a healthy option. They buy Pringles because they want chips that come in a tube. And the Pringles multigrain option was a significant failure. They barely sold any. So consider if you're marketing a really luxurious product or a really trendy product or a budget and affordable product, but that's not what the market wants, then your marketing will fail no matter how much effort you put into it. Similarly too, suppliers, particularly in the retail sphere, have a vested interest in the marketing of their product and the marketing of the business they sell it to. Consider products like Nespresso machines or Dyson vacuums through the Good Guys, or most of the products that you can buy in a supermarket. Coca-Cola is a good example of this. They don't sell Dyson, Nespresso, Coca-Cola. They don't sell their products to end users, to consumers. Coca-Cola mostly sells to retailers like supermarkets, and Nespresso and Dyson mostly sell to retailers like the Good Guys or JB Hi-Fi. Those sorts of electronics retailers. So ultimately, Coca-Cola wants to market the product successfully independently, and they want Coles and Woolworths and 7-Eleven to market themselves and market Coca-Cola as being available through their stores to increase the sales of Coca-Cola. If Coca-Cola suddenly finds that people in Australia aren't buying groceries anymore from Coles and Woolworths, they'll probably find that their sales are in trouble, because that's one of the biggest retail lines for the distribution of their products to end users. Cafes that sell soft drinks are going to be using marketing materials generated by these businesses. Certainly you can see this example here of marketing materials produced by Coca-Cola to promote Coca-Cola within a grocery space. And that's exactly what we're sort of talking about here. That the marketing strategies of the producers of products are certainly going to have to align with the marketing strategies of the suppliers that also sell those products for the benefits of both businesses. And certainly too, if you're thinking about marketing, particularly with the objective of increasing your market share, ultimately what we're talking about is taking consumers away from your competitors. So being aware of what they're doing in the marketing space is going to be absolutely necessary. There's a mock-up here. This is not real. This wasn't used by either business, but someone clever came up with this to show how easily imagery can be changed in its messaging just by the addition of different taglines and different logos. I liked it. That's why it's in here. But generally speaking, when it comes to marketing, you need to be aware of what your competitors are doing, because you need to be different. You need to be better than them. If marketing is about building a brand image, and if a brand image by design should be attractive, then your marketing needs to make your business more attractive than your competitors are making their own businesses. And finally, we come to the external macro environment. Now, the macro environment describes forces that have an indirect impact on your business and your business has no control over. We can talk about things like economic forces. When the economy is good and employment is high and wages are good and the interest rates are low, so household debt isn't increasing, then typically individuals within the market are going to have more disposable income and be better positioned to be able to spend money on goods and services. At times like this, a successful marketing plan might promote services like afterpay or loan arrangements because people are going to feel more confident taking on debt to purchase things like a new car or a boat or a jet ski, things that might be a little bit less affordable at other times. And certainly when the economy is not doing so well, when unemployment's going up, when household debt is increasing, when interest rates are high, your marketing plan might focus on the good value that you could provide to customers and really focus on how your offerings to the market are better value than their competitors. Certainly different businesses are going to be more successful in times of poor economic outlook, and other businesses will be better off in times of good economic outlook, depending on what they bring to the market and how they market themselves. And certainly too, we have to consider legal forces. Over the course of this year so far, we've talked about legal requirements for businesses a few times. It's because there are many. And one of those legal requirements that I've introduced is the Competition and Consumer Act, which applies to all businesses in Australia. And certainly they have a lot to say about marketing. You're not allowed to lie to consumers. You're not allowed to mislead consumers. You're not allowed to make offers that are fake. You're not allowed to run competitions or offer prizes that aren't real, that aren't going to be given to anyone. And so if you're going to establish a customer base, if you're going to establish a brand image, you need to be very careful that you're complying with your legal obligations. Because businesses that develop a reputation for being unethical in their marketing practices will likely lose the trust of consumers, and that's going to absolutely damage their ability to establish a customer base. In summary for this key knowledge point, there are many elements that can affect a brand image, from the internal, the operating, and the macro environments. Intentional utilization of those forces, intentional development of strategies to take advantage of or to resist those forces is marketing. That's more or less what a marketer does as a job. They look at those forces from those environments, they look for opportunities presented, and they take those opportunities, and they look for threats coming from those forces, and they develop strategies to resist those threats. You need to be aware that in any case, a business is not wholly in control of how they're seen in the market. If one of their competitors does something extraordinary, if one of your business competitors suddenly develops a cure for cancer, your business is probably going to take a back seat in the minds of the market for a little while. If one of your competitive businesses is discovered to be using child slavery in their supply chain, probably you've got an opportunity to look pretty good by comparison just on the basis of the fact that you don't use child slavery in your supply chain, hopefully. Whatever the case may be, there are forces at play, things within your control and things outside of your control that will affect your ability to establish a brand identity and establish a customer base. That's all for today. See you next time.